What's up guys, Dan Dravidi here, hope you're all well. So I'm bringing you this video, really basic, about why you should invest in property. You'll see some of my other videos are about specific sectors and different markets and why you should do things this way, or why I've done certain things this way, or how I do refurbs and why I invest in certain markets. I thought I'd do a video about really basic first steps into investing in property, because there is definitely a huge amount of new people coming into property investing and property development or refurbishing, looking for the quick buck. And there's, for every one person who's looking to step and come into this sector, there's about 30 different new trainers coming into the mix. So I thought I'd do this video really just to help anyone who is considering starting a property investment portfolio or looking for a quick buck within property, because it doesn't exist. So those of you who are maybe considering property, you'll be thinking about some of the great names in the industry and some of the great success stories. I'm not going to focus on other people. I'm not going to focus on some of the massive wins, some of the historical things that have made people property tycoons, property moguls, or multi-millionaires, or in some cases billionaires. That's what we need to avoid. That's what we need to get away from, because what we need to focus on is what's happening right now. Back when I was sort of 1, 2, 3 years old, you could buy a house for 10,000, and there wasn't many of them about, and right to buy was just coming in, so lots of people were buying good quality homes that the council have built for not a lot of money, because they built up these huge amounts of discounts. And if you look at the level of people who were buying properties then, and the rate versus income, it was hugely reduced to what it is now. Equally, if we go back 12 years ago, 13 years ago, to just before the financial crisis, people like me who were then getting started had the ability to leverage 100% mortgages, in some cases 105, 110% mortgages. They just don't really exist in today's market, and for very good reason. So let's first of all, let's get rid of some of the noise that maybe you've been hearing and watching in videos. The first rule is avoid people who tell you you must do X, Y, Z. You must quit your job tomorrow. You must become a rent-to-renter. You must do lease options. You must work with investors. You must have HMO properties. You must avoid all of those BS, waffly types of gimmicky "you must." There is no one size fits all. There is no one shoe that fits everyone. Property is very much a balance between where your skill set is, where your experience is, how much time you have to devote, how much time you wish to for it to engulf your life, and how much cash you have available, if any. And lots of people who will be watching this video won't have access to any cash, which means rule number two, you should avoid jumping straight in to what is perceived as no money down deals, because 99% of the individuals who are talking about no money down deals are there to sell you a dream. It's to sell you a course or a training or a mentorship or whatever it may be. Now, I'm not saying no money down deals don't 100% exist, because sometimes, in some circumstances, in some occasions, they potentially do. However, you need to be ready, if you ever find a no money down deal, for it to potentially require money, which means you need to find additional funds. And typically, if a deal is going wrong or it needs more injection of cash and it's been a no money down deal, that source of fund will have to come from you. So you need to be very, very mindful of it. And actually, before we move on to point number 3, let's talk about no money down deals. So what are no money down deals currently being banded around property and YouTube videos? They are rent-to-rent deals. So these are properties that individuals acquire or take control of from other landlords, and then they improve those properties, or they rent those rooms within that property out to make more income than they are going to pay the landlord. Now, that is perceived to be a no money down deal because you are taking control of an asset for zero and you are then renting the rooms out, which sounds really simple and easy. And the income that you are going to produce by renting the rooms out, whether it be to professionals, to students, or to serviced accommodation, the perception is you'll earn more money than you need to pay the landlord, so you're making a gross profit, and that gross profit is the deal, and it's a no money down deal. That's very far from the truth. You will require some form of cash input, whether that be deposits to the landlord, whether that be to improve the property, whether that be to furnish the property, to make it safe, to make it compliant. All of the various bits and pieces you need to focus on if you're going to consider this strategy. If you are going to consider that form of strategy, don't just assume that you know how to improve something, or you know because you've read a couple of books what it potentially needs. The best form of requirements list that you can obtain is from the local council, and if you can't get through to them, or you don't have access to them, or for whatever reason you're struggling to interpret their information because it's not easy to find and it's not easy to sometimes understand, then go to a local association or a national association and pay a membership fee. So again, it's not a no money down deal, but for the sake of a membership annual fee, the access to information from these associations, which tend to be low cost for huge amounts of value, will steer you on the right track. The right track. But do not be blindsided that rent to rent is a no money down deal. And my experience with rent to rent is very, very limited, because my view on rent to rent is very much that it can help individuals who do not have cash to buy assets or the experience to work with investors. It can give them an opening into the property world. However, it shouldn't be entered into very lightly. I've got a friend who's recently entered the property sector, not via me, not through my guidance, through another company, and the reason why she went through another company and not via me is because she wasn't aware of my involvement within property. And she was very aware of the other company because of the headline promises they promise individuals who have little to no experience and little to no money. And after one rent to rent and the investment required to make the landlord's property safe, compliant and accessible to her target market, the return on investment and time just isn't there. So rent to rent sounds really, really good, and there are places for it, but it's a tool. It's a tool in your belt. And people who come up to me and say, I'm just doing rent to rent, or I'm just doing rent to rent HMOs, or I'm just doing rent to rent serviced accommodation, before they understand the market, before they understand the realities of that segment of property investing, really need to take note that that isn't the only route forward. And I have a view on it, and I'm not a fan of it. It has its place, and you should consider it when the dictation of the deal and the strategy and the market means that it's the right tool at that specific time. But typically, if you've got a rent-to-rent property, you're paying a landlord an amount of money, you're renting that property for more than what you're paying a landlord, and you're taking the gross profit. Depending on the terms, and there you're either responsible for the whole property, or there's levels of maintenance and levels of improvements which don't fall within your responsibility, and they sit with the landlord. My advice to anyone who does look to enter the market within this sector: they understand the market they're going to rent to first. They understand what is required legally and compliantly. They understand the lender's obligation on the property you're looking at, so you don't put the landlord at risk by breaching mortgage conditions. And you understand just completely what the pitfalls and positives are for rent to rent. The other no money down deals, which is property sourcing. Now, for me, property sourcing is a bad swear word in the property sector at the moment. For every one trainer who enters the market every month, there's 50 property sourcers. Now, don't get me wrong, property sourcing is fundamental to bringing a deal together. And within any collaborative approach, whether it's in joint ventures or crowdfunding, whatever you want to, there will be an individual who brings a property to the table. And without that property, a deal can't happen. So someone has to source a property. So sourcing property on one hand is fundamental to a great deal, but property sources who pour out the same deals to the same investors around the social media platforms get tarnished, in my view, with the same brush. I've lost count how many deal sources have brought me deals, and those deals are either on market, and we'll talk about off-market deals in a second, but either on market or off market, but they've been manipulated to show a certain type of property being what it is, and a certain type of income for it to perceptually deceive me into believing it's a better deal than it actually is. Now, I invest in one location across 4 different sectors, and for anyone to bring me a deal outside of that location who doesn't have the experience in any of those markets within that location need to be completely watertight on their numbers. And I am yet to have one sourcer over the whole period of my property investing to bring me a deal where their numbers stacked up to the reality. And that is my experience. So if you're going to come into the property sourcing world, understand what you want to achieve, not short term, not financially, what your end goal is, what you want to achieve from investing in property. And if property sourcing can help you get there, you need to find the route that is going to help you long term and give you a sustainable career within property. My favorite advice to anyone starting out is, if you find a genuinely good deal, don't just look for a short-term quick cash injection. Let's say you find a deal of 100,000 or 200,000 and you want to charge someone 2% for finding that deal because it is a genuine good deal. We won't talk about deals that don't exist or are non-genuine because it's a waste of my time. And to be honest with you, if you're watching my video and you want to sell deals that don't add up and you want to give the perception that they do, click off and go and watch someone else's video, because I'm not interested working with you, and you definitely won't want to hear what I've got to tell you, because I've got some harsh realities for you. But let's say you find a deal which is genuinely a good deal and you've been told to sell that deal on a quick cash injection. Let's look at a deal for 200k. So 2% on 200k, which I believe is the figure that is being banded around. Sometimes you might get less than that, but let's say you're on a good day. So you're going to earn 4k for selling that deal, and that deal goes, and the person takes that deal forward and they either do really well with that deal or that deal is a disaster. You've got your 4k. But let's look at the individual you've just sold that deal to. Let's say that deal goes really well. Let's say that deal makes them a huge amount of money, and it's either a great profit because they've sold that deal, or it's a great cash flow and asset. What have you actually got out of that deal? You've earned 4k, so what? How many 4Ks do you need to do to change your life? How many 4Ks do you need to do to put a deposit down on a property? How many 4Ks do you need to have before you're able to go and do a development? I don't know, only you need to know the answer to that. My point is, it's going to be more than one. And how many great deals are there actually out there that you can genuinely sell that you'll make 4k on? I don't know. I don't sell deals. I've never sold deals. And the reason being is because I believe the value is in the deal, regardless of what the outcome is, whether it's financial or the learning part. But that's if the deal's gone well. What if the deal hasn't gone well? What if the deal isn't what you promised it would be, but you've earned your 4k? Where does the morality level sit when the individual comes back to you and he says, well, look, I did everything you said I was going to do, but that property didn't sell for what you said it was going to sell for. So I haven't made any money, or I've made a lot less than what you said, or it was a rental property and I've done everything you said and I've spent exactly what you said to spend. I'm not renting it for what you said I was going to. And the questions will always come back to you as the deal sourcer, because your commercial interest in the deal isn't aligned to the person you've sold it to. And I think that is so fundamentally wrong. I think if you've got a deal and you want to bring it to the table and you want to earn something from that, whether it's money or something else, your interest should be directly aligned to the other party. The commercial interest should be aligned. And I say this until I'm blue in the face, and unfortunately for 95% of the individuals who are looking for the quick buck, don't want to hear it. If I was starting out and I had no experience and I had no money, I would explore my local market and I would look to see where the gaps are. And once I found a gap where I think there was potential for someone to earn money, whether it's buying and selling or buying and holding or both, depending on what they wanted to do. I would absolutely hunt down the deal, and I would not give two shits if that deal was on market or off market. It's about the quality of the deal and the market that I'm going to target and what can affect that market. Don't get hung up on and off market, and we will come on to that. Once I had that deal, bearing in mind I have no money, I would then look to who I want to work with. Who is doing what I really want to do? Who has achieved what I want to achieve? And for everyone, that is different. But who is doing that? And typically, if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in mind that you're aspiring to achieve what they have, I would be very, very convinced that the type of deal that you've just found would fit with one of those individuals, because the two would go hand in hand. And then what I would do is I would bring that deal to the table, to sit down with that individual, to get their attention, to get talking to them, to ask them questions. And if the deal is good enough, that individual will want to take it forward. And that individual may want to pay you a sourcing fee for that. But your value is worth so much more than a one-off fee. My value is worth so much more than a one-off fee. I would want to be involved in that deal. And even if you handed that deal over and it was, say, a refurbishment from a 3-bed to a 5-bed with 5 en-suites HMO aimed at the student market, and you wanted to enter that market and you wanted to get into the detail of how you can create this and how you can make this work in this market and make it a success, why would you not exchange that deal and work with that individual and take a small percentage? Maybe that individual doesn't want to give you a percentage of the deal, but if the value of the individual is so great, why not work with that individual and take nothing financially and insist on being there when you're on site, insist on being there when you're talking to tradespeople, insist on being there when you're making decisions, insist, because if the deal is so strong and the individual is the right individual, they would welcome that because they understand the value that they have and the fact that you recognize it. And I promise what you will gain from that one deal with that interaction with that individual will be far more than any fee that you can charge on a sourcing deal. Because what that then gives you is experience in the sector that you want to play in. And once you have the experience, once you gain some experience, you then can bring more to the table. So for deal number 2, you could potentially take some of the workload off of the individual for an exchange of the percentage of the deal in terms of financial. And all of a sudden, you're starting to work with an individual or multiple individuals, and you're working within the deal, within the market, within the property sector, and you're actually gaining real experience. And okay, you're not earning yet. You're not earning a huge amount of money yet, but your commercial interest is aligned to that individual. So if the deal went horribly wrong, you've still gained all of the experience, but you've gained more because you've gained the insight of when things do go wrong. You know, financially, the individual won't necessarily come back knocking on your door because they haven't paid you for the project. They may ask you some of the questions that you promised, some of the figures, and you'll need to answer for that. But if you're within the deal, you can see and judge and understand together, collaboratively, on how it's taking it forward. So that would be my advice, and we're still on point 2, I appreciate that. So, and I'm not saying, and I'm not doing this video with taking for people to bring me loads of deals so they can work with me and I don't have to pay for those deals. I'm not interested in working with multiple individuals in multiple locations. I like Norwich and Norfolk, and that's all I'm interested in. But if you have a deal, feel free to bring it to me. But that's not the reason for stating that. It is very much about thinking about your long-term reputation and your long-term goals, and giving something early on to gain far much more in the future. It's called the indirect route to financial freedom, and that's what we call it anyway. That's point 2. Point 3, training. So the problem I have with the training sector, and I don't have a huge problem because I really like some of the guys who have achieved great results, and they talk about them on social media and they write books, because some of the guys have wrote books that helped me step my game up. My issue is with the middle sector of this environment, where we'll come in and they have some short-term wins, and all of a sudden they want to sell those short-term wins in the form of training and mentorship. There is nothing out there that you can't find from books, and there is nothing out there that you can't find from following individuals on the internet. However, I recognise to step up in certain sectors, in certain areas, not just property but business and entrepreneurialism, or whatever you want to call it, life. There are some individuals out there who are achieving exceptional things that will give you their time in exchange for money. And there are also, for every one great individual or company, 50 who are just looking to take your funds and run. And my advice would be to read as many books as you can, watch videos and social media posts online, get to follow the guys that you're looking to aspire to achieve what they have, and become a member of an association like the National Landlord Association or the Eastern Landlord Association, where I'm a member of, who don't just cover the east of England, they cover a national wide aspect. Because for the sake of, I don't know the numbers, but let's call it 100 quid a year, the amount of information that you can extract from these guys is just worth so much more. Okay, so that's kind of rule number 3. Okay, point 4, rule number 4. There isn't a way you can enter the property market and get rich quick. It just doesn't happen. You can earn funds quick, you can't get rich quick. And anyone who tells you that you can, I'm afraid, is wrong. Money's important. The reason we enter the property world is to build assets that generate income that helps lifestyle. So cash is important. But sometimes you will lose money on deals. Sometimes you'll do deals with investors that don't make the return that you promised. So you have to be prepared to put your hand in your pocket and either trade your way out of an environment, buy yourself out of a deal, or compensate and pay back the investor. Or the market may turn and you need to exit finance quite quickly. There are huge amounts of holes that individuals can fall into, and the reason why these holes aren't talked about is because getting rich quick is what you want to hear, but you don't want to hear about all the pitfalls. But my question to you is, look how many individuals are members of property groups, and look how many groups there are on Facebook alone. And then look over the years how many of the individuals who were active 18 months ago who are no longer active. And then go back 3 years and then 4 years and see how many of those individuals are still active, still proactively posting on Facebook, still showing before and after pictures. And unfortunately, you'll find it's an extremely low percentage. And the reason being is because getting rich quick is what people focus on, and they don't focus on the sustainability and the nooks and the crooks and the detail of property. And when they don't do that, they fall into one of these traps or these holes, and they sink and they go and they're gone, and you don't see it or hear of them anymore. How to avoid that? Well, getting started slowly next to your job is a pretty good start. And for me, I would say point number 5 is, if you are starting brand new to property, you just recognise that you are in a situation with a job and you'd like to get out of it. How is the best way forward? My advice to anyone is to always start with your own home. Because in the UK, if you buy somewhere and you live there and then you sell it for a period of time, the growth or the profit that you create is tax-free. And every other sector that you play in basically has a tax liability. There are ways to prolong, defer, mitigate, stop tax in other property ways and wrapping things up with companies and things, but this video isn't about that. This is This is a basic starting point for anyone who is interested in starting in property. And my advice would be, no matter what income you're on, if you're on an income and you're currently employed, go and find out what your mortgageability is. How much can you borrow on a mortgage? Understand how much deposit you need to put in. And if you don't have that deposit, go and find a way to get that deposit. It might be friends and family. You would need a mortgage product specific to that type of circumstances, because you can't just borrow money from mum and dad and go and get any mortgage. The mortgage needs to allow that. But understand your mortgageability and then understand what you need to go and buy a property. It will also give you an idea of what you can spend, what property value you can target. Because if you're earning $50,000 a year and you think you can only afford a property worth $100,000, you may find you can afford a property worth $200,000. I don't know. I'm not a mortgage advisor and I'm not an expert. Go and find a mortgage advisor and have a conversation with them. They will give you their time, because in exchange, when you buy the first property, they will earn income from the lender. So they will give you their time. And they will give you an indication of how much you can borrow, which will fall into how much you can spend on a property. If you don't have a mum and dad or friends or a family that you can borrow money on, and you still need money because there's a deposit and stamp duty and various legal fees, bits and pieces involved, don't let that hurdle hold you back. Find a way of making that money. So if you've got a job and it's Monday to Friday, great. You've got weekends and evenings. If you've got a job and it's not Monday to Friday and you're working 6-7 days a week, maybe it's retail where you work weekends, so your spare time is in the week, fine. Use that spare time in the week. Or if you're working 2 jobs and you don't have enough time, find ways of earning additional income that don't require your time. And this can be anything. I'll give you a couple examples of how I did it the second time when I nearly went bankrupt and I had to start all over again. I knew that without a job, I couldn't get a mortgage. Without a mortgage, I couldn't buy a property. So I either sat in my mum and dad's spare bedroom without a property and I couldn't move forward, and I just sit there until they kicked me. So I knew, I reverse engineered it. I wanted to buy a property. I needed a mortgage. To get a mortgage, I needed a job. So I needed to go and get a job. So get a job, find a mortgage that works for you, understand how much deposit you need. So my circumstances were, got a job, found out how much I could borrow, there was a gap. It was called the deposit. And I needed some money, I needed some cash. I had a job in retail, it was 6 days a week. So it was weekends, bank holidays, which was really, really difficult. So what could I do to make money? So I started selling things on eBay, and I found that actually by buying stock in and sending it back out was a pretty old school way of selling things on eBay. So I found a way to have the manufacturer send it direct to the person who was buying it from me on eBay. And I started to make money. It wasn't much, and it wasn't without its problems, because you'd have things that were delivered wrong or delivered damaged. So the margins were so tight on eBay that if you had one that lost money, you had to sell 10 to sort of recover from that. So it was a hard slog. And I'm talking about pounds and pennies. And when you're trying to save for thousands and thousands of pounds, so it was a real uphill struggle. However, you have to compound these things with your lifestyle. So I've got a job, I'm making a bit of money on the side. I'm also cutting my costs massively. I'm stripping back on everything. I'm not buying any new clothes. I'm not going out to nightclubs, buying expensive drinks and things like that. I'm not going out to flash restaurants. I'm not going out much at all to eat. I'm buying and I'm making stuff at home just to recoup the cash that I have got, so it's not bleeding out the other end. I'm trying to scrimp back on expensive cosmetics. I'm even trying to use as little hair wax as I can in the mornings so I can make my hair gel pot go a bit further. I'm even in the shower using the smallest bit of soap I can to clean myself, so the £1 shower gel thing goes a bit further. And it's these sacrifices, and it's this level of commitment and focus that will allow you to get there. And eventually, when you can, whether it's selling stuff on eBay, doing car boot sales, doing a second job, whatever, you will get there. And when you get there, and you buy that property to live in, you then have the ability to grow the value, and you have the ability to grow the value of the property, not your deposit value. So let's take an example. Let's say you buy a property for 100,000 and you put £10,000 down as a 10% deposit. If you buy that property and you give it a lick of paint and tidy up and maybe a new kitchen or bathroom, depending on your budget, depending on your skill set, but let's say that property goes up 10%. It's not 10% of your 10,000, because that would be 1,000. It's 10% of the value, which is 100,000. So all of a sudden it's worth 110. You've made, in layman's terms, very basic maths, 10,000. But what you've done is that 10,000 that you had to put in doubles. You've doubled your money, and then when you come to sell it, it's tax-free. So you've doubled your money tax-free. Say you do that, but it's on a larger scale. Let's say it's 20,000 and it goes to 40,000. All of a sudden we're starting to get into how much do you earn a year? How many of those do you need to do to replace your income? Then this is how property starts. This is how the journey starts to move forward. But all of the individuals who are worried about doing rent-to-rent deals and doing multiple deals because it's a numbers game, you've got to build up this income. But actually what you're doing is you're building up a huge amount of liability, you're building up a huge amount of headache, and you're building up a huge amount of cost for an asset you don't own. That's what rent-to-rent is. You're taking on the ownership and the liability of an asset that you don't own. And that's my view on it. But if you buy your own house and you spend money or you spend time and you improve it and you sell it, and the money that you get is tax-free, all of a sudden you can start to move up the property ladder. Eventually you start to have additional cash, and it's that additional cash that you can potentially start to invest in property. And let's say a couple of the properties that you've bought on your way up, you haven't sold. You've flipped onto a buy-to-let mortgage and you've actually started to rent that out. And let's say up the line a few years, you haven't just rented it out on a standard buy-to-let. You've flipped it onto a HMO mortgage, and you've now got students living in there. You've now got experience of being a student landlord, or you've got experience of serviced accommodation, or professional HMOs, or whatever. That experience can then start to open up other doors through owning the asset. Not controlling it, but owning the asset. And owning the asset gives you more abilities to earn income, especially when things go against you. So in a market that's in growth, things like rent to rent will just continue to go forward, and everyone's doing really well. But what happens when mortgage interest rates rise and your agreement with the landlord may be a legal agreement, but the landlord says, well, look, your rent isn't covering my mortgage, so we're going to have to do something? Have you got the ability to fight that landlord in court? Do you have the financial ability? Do you have the moral ability? If that landlord's mortgage is increasing, your rent is not covering his mortgage, do you want to do the right thing? If you own the asset, it's a different ball game. You have the same problems. You've got interest rate rises with mortgage lenders and things, but they're your problems with the lender, not through a landlord. So buying your own house definitely is the way forward. Point 6, if you're starting out in property. I've talked about buying your own house. I've talked about if you find a good deal, you should work with someone else, and how you should work with someone else. But one of the things that maybe it should have been one of the first points, but I'm bringing it up now, is networking. Network like there is no tomorrow. You should get out there and network. Don't get me wrong, you will kiss more frogs than you will princesses or princes, but you have to understand what to listen to and what not to. I remember I host a networking event, Norfolk Property Network, and every event that we have, I would say at least 30% of the attendees are brand new to that event. And I love networking, and I talk to the same people and I talk to new people. And a lot of the new people, after they engage with me in conversation, they don't want to talk to me anymore, because I'm not interested in telling them what they want to hear. Yeah, services accommodation, that's great. You're going to become replace your income within a few months and you're not going to have any problems. Well, one, I don't know that because I don't play in that sector directly. And two, I don't believe that to be the case. Equally, when people come to me and they say, yep, I'm going to focus on HMOs, I'm going to focus on rent to rent, or I'm going to focus on service accommodation. And I say, that's great. Where? Oh, wherever I can get the deals. Okay, so service accommodation is your strategy. here's a deal out in the middle of nowhere where there is no service accommodation market whatsoever, but I'll give it to you on a rent-to-rent service accommodation because that's your sector, that's your strategy. So when you're networking, remember there will be a lot of frogs there. There will be a lot of people that you want to listen to that you don't want to listen to. I like speaking to everyone, and I very rarely actually give my opinion. I often just try and help where I can. So if someone is heart set on doing something that I maybe don't agree with, which is a sector that I don't play in, I don't like, I don't think has legs, has sustainability, but they want help with where to buy a kitchen or how to do this or how to instruct a tradesman or whatever, I will still absolutely help them, because if I can help, then great. Unfortunately, if they push me for my opinion and I give it and they don't like it, then that's fair enough. That's why I love networking, because I get the ability to talk to many people and give a lot of insight, but equally there's a huge amount that I don't know, and I get all of the information for free from networking events. And then it's up to me what I choose to listen to, what I choose to implement, what I choose to double check, and whatever. So networking is absolutely key. And some of the networking that I've done over the years has built relationships with individuals who I form friendships with, I never do business with, and I form business relationships with that I've got multiple business deals with. And that all comes from networking. So my perception of networking before I did it was that it's for these idiots that don't know what they're doing and are dreaming, and it's full of the same sort of people in the rooms, and it's a waste of my time and I've got better things to do. It was me who was being the idiot. It was me who was wasting my time thinking that, because when I started networking, you can pinpoint it to the day my life started to change for the better with property. So networking, point 5 or 6. So point number, I think we're on number 7 for anyone who is brand new to property, is social media. So there is this underworld in the property sector that exists over social media. And over time, you'll get to see who the regular posters are, and you'll get to see who is involved in what sector, who is involved in what market, and who have good relationships and who don't get on, and various things. It's actually quite interesting to watch. Over the years, I've actually stepped a bit further out of the social media world. I still have fits and starts. I run jointly with other admins one of the biggest Facebook groups online, and there is a huge amount of buying and selling and deals being offered. But when you get past all of that, there's some great topics and some great information. But like any environment and like any job really, and working with colleagues, there's issues with social media. So my advice would be, don't fall into the trap of, I'm new to property, but I'm going to hit social media really hard, and I'm going to ask loads of questions, and I'm going to post all my issues, and I'm going to become a big name in social media really quickly. Because unfortunately, especially in the groups linked to training companies, every 12 to 18 months, we all see the same thing. People who are brand new, they come on and they tell us about how their world has fallen from under their feet because their rent-to-rent deals shower leaked, but they're now experts. I don't want to hear it. Property is, I think, personally, one of the best industries you can build wealth in. But Christ, is it the one industry where you will be absolutely ripped apart in multiple different directions for multiple issues and multiple hurdles and reasons why you should just give up. And there is just absolutely no escaping it. No matter if it's tradesmen letting you down, tenants not paying, properties having problems, refurbs going wrong, lenders calling in loans, lenders saying they're going to lend and not lend, buyers pulling out, getting gazumped on deals not stacking up, investors telling you they've got money and then they don't have it, and lenders not lending to you because you've worked with a certain investor, and the list just goes on and on and on. Everyone in property has to deal with it. You are not exempt, and you are not alone, but you are not special. And one of the first things you shouldn't be talking about is how you've got this problem and you've overcome it and this and that, because it does help other people in the early days, but it will start to hurt your reputation. And unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast. If you start posting every time you have a leaky shower and how your tenants threaten not to pay, people don't want to hear it. People don't want to see it. What we want to see on social media is success stories. I love hearing about success stories, but not success stories of what it's going to look like when it's done. When you've bought, paid the price, done the refurb, sold the property or rented it out or finished the development or conversion, and here it is all finished. That's what we want to see. We want to see the journey. There's hundreds of people who are gonna buy 10 properties. There's hundreds of people who are gonna do serviced accommodation. And there's hundreds and thousands of people who are telling you what they're gonna do, but we aren't interested in that. What we want to see is the start and the middle and the finish. And we want to see it right all the way through. And do you know what? You'll gain credibility for that because you've been through that process. Equally, if you've got questions that you want to ask, look to see if those questions are being asked elsewhere. Have you read the books? Have you taken the time to read mortgage lenders' product guides and criterias and terms and conditions? Because if you haven't and you're just posting these questions on social media, you're going to get pointed in that direction. Property takes time, it takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of resilience. And resilience is one thing that you'll have to hold on to a lot. But equally, you're going to have to put the time in and the hours. And I lost count in the early days when I didn't have any funds and I was trying to find lenders that would work with my circumstances. And I would fall asleep at night next to my wife reading mortgage product guides, mortgage terms and conditions, countless lenders, lender after lender, and I ended up knowing more than most mortgage brokers because I had no funds and I knew the mortgage was going to allow me to buy property. And understanding the mortgage products and where I could really save money with valuations and product fees and fees up front and all these various things enabled me to do that, to put the hard work in. However, social media is fantastic. It is absolutely networking in the 21st century. You can get to know people and make friends and build relationships with people you have never met, and they become your ally and you become theirs, and it's great. And in the right environment, you can start to grow as an individual and a property investor and developer within the social media environments. When you start to add value or ask questions or address people's problems or post about your problems, and the community supports you and you give that support back, social media can aid you in your journey, but it can also create hurdles. Now, one of the things I see from people who start with great intentions, branch off to do to build their own credibility up faster, is attack others on social media. I'm not a big person for what you've got, what you've done, how much you're worth, how many properties you have, how much income you have, what age you are, or whatever. I couldn't care less. For me, there is no excuse for it. Attacking individuals to raise your own profile is poor. And if you ever have done it and you continue to do it and you think that is a way of, raising your profile for whatever reason, it's not. And you see it in the corporate environment. You see actually poor performers, people who can't achieve their sales results, or people who can't deliver reports in a certain way or present certain information in environments full of large rooms, to hide the fact of their own demons. They attack other individuals. They make themselves, their defense is a form of attack. Do not do it. You don't need to do it. Polite encouragement, relief, love, whatever you want to call it, give it on social media. If you haven't got something nice to say, don't say it. If you think someone is saying something which is really wrong, politely call them out. Personally, I'd private message them. I've done it a lot of times. I see people who are saying the wrong thing, and I could make them look really stupid on social media. And do you know what? It might make other people think, oh, fucking hell, Dan was a bit harsh there. But that's not what I'm about. and I've private messaged them. Sometimes I get ignored, sometimes I get told to piss off, and other times I get a thank you. And it goes to the extreme. There are people out there who are actively looking to recruit investment within their business or raise the traffic to their website. And the only way they know how to do that is by attacking others. And actually, they collude with other people and they recruit people that are financially invested within their business. And they'll actually attack their competitors or certain individuals in their sector to aid in their businesses. And I just have no interest in it. This is all about property. This is about bricks and mortar and about renting that property out and selling them and creating things and working with individuals within a social network. That can all just go to one side. I have no interest in it. And there are going to be individuals who scam and rip people off and sell courses and don't deliver or whatever. And there is all of that going on, and it will always go on. But just try and eliminate that from your mind. Stay smart, read books, join an association, extract the information available online through social media, YouTube or whatever. And if you feel the need to, yes, okay, pay for courses and mentorships. Truly understand what that will do for you and how much it's going to cost you and if you can afford it. One of my favourite lines with property is that there is always another property deal. And I used to say that to anyone who was rushing me into a deal or anyone who was saying to me, I need to do a deal, I need to do a deal. There is no guarantees in property except there is always another deal. And I can always promise anyone that. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be in 10 years' time, but there is always going to be another deal. So you should never feel rushed into anything. And it goes without saying on anything else where you have to part with money, not just even in property. There's always going to be another course, there's always going to be another book, there's always going to be another training day, and there's always going to be another trainer. Never, ever feel rushed. And I guess that was point 8. And I think that's it from me. Sorry if I've waffled on. Sorry if my t-shirt looks like it needs a good iron. But don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be bringing a video. I say it on every one, and I know I haven't, but a video every week. Don't forget to smash the like button, which helps the YouTube algorithm, which does help me. I want to build an audience. I want to keep bringing you these messages. I want to portray my experience and my learnings and some of my projects through social media to all of you, which is what I want to do. And you can watch me if you want to, and if you don't, you can just click off, which is entirely up to you. Your time is your own. But if you like what I'm doing and you like what I'm about and you like it, then hit the like button, and also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. But that's it from me, guys. Hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.